Hello there, this is a video to show you an example of a GCSE unit that was awarded a level 9 at Thomas Allanes High School. This video is to help you get examples and see advice for what types of sheets are created during the GCSE. This particular unit is based on natural forms and decoration, and it's full of loads and loads of experimentation, drawing, development, and a fantastic final piece. This image on the screen here is just showing you an example of each one of the sheets, all of which we completed along with a sketchbook and a final piece. There are 5 sheets altogether, 1 final piece, and then there were also a fantastic sketchbook, which is one of the things which pushed this student firmly and safely into a level 9. With GCSE at Thomas Allanes, you'll either be taught by Mr. Robinson White, Mrs. Simmons Vaughan or Mrs. Cornell, and we'll take you through both sections of your Art GCSE, which is your coursework unit worth 60% of your final grade, and your exam unit. The coursework generally takes place from all the way through year 10 to the January when you're in year 11, and the remainder of that time, which is from January to the April when you're in year 11, will be spent doing your exam unit. Everything that each teacher does, each different unit, is all planned around the assessment objectives, so whether you're with any one of the teachers, each one will make sure that there is a good mixture of developing, experimenting, recording and realising through a final piece. Through this video, you will see examples of each one of the students' sheets and then the key parts of the sketchbook that are also recorded along with the final piece to help you see the type of work that we're expecting at GCSE. Please remember that this is done throughout the 2 years of GCSE and not just year 11. You start working on your GCSE as soon as you start off in year 10 and then you finish in the January of then year 11. Then we start your exam. The image on the screen shows an example of each one of the sheets that the student completed, along with a little tiny assessment objective pie chart next to each one of the sheets. Each of the sheets and final piece will then always represent either one or more of the assessment objectives. In most cases, it tries to represent more than 2 in each sheet, or in the case of the final piece. Each year will be slightly different due to different sort of circumstances. This year, with all of the corona pandemic and everything that's gone on, students are producing 2 final pieces because of missing out on the exam unit. But generally, most of the times, what you will get is a prolonged coursework unit that lasts until the start of January, after which we start your exam. This particular unit is the unit that I teach, or the example of one of the units that I teach if you're in Mr. Robinson's class. This is the first sheet, which is made up of chalks, and I like to sometimes use an expressive media when we start off to get the ball rolling, to push students a little bit outside of their comfort zone and to see what you can produce. It's an example of a mixed overlapping composition in the style of artists called the Futurists, and each different one has got hidden natural forms within inside the composition that is really hopefully interesting and challenging for students to attempt. The next sheets, and this is one of my personal favourites, it has a little bit of every single assessment objective on there. It has AO1 because of the research for the artists in each one of the designs. It has AO2 because of the experimenting. And then it has developing as well, because we're developing in the style of artists and composing things in a very unusual way. This particular sheet has got different circle designs, different artist connections and different drawings, all of which form the basis of this sheet. As with everything in GCSE, all teachers will give you full guides for each one of the sheets you'll complete. You'll be able to see student examples, step-by-step processes for how each one of those sheets is built together, and then the key thing, which is the success criteria, which, if followed for every single sheet, will guarantee that you can make the best possible variation of the sheets that you are working on currently in GCSE. This sheet on the screen shows an example of the success criteria for this circle sheet, and again it has a step-by-step list, little processes to follow, and then strengths and weaknesses, and areas for myself and the student then to be marking off next steps to increase the quality of the work. Following on from the circle sheet is the box sheet, which is created to show a mixture of drawing and experimentation in lots and lots of different ways. Collage is used in some areas, painting is used, also a mixture of 3D relief materials, along with closer-up sections and studies that are produced in media such as paint and pencil crayon. This gives the examiner a great opportunity to see your base drawing level and experimentation marks. And in the case of this sheet on the screen here, you can see that tone is carefully mixed, collage is also carefully executed, blending of colours and detail are prevalent in the entire sheet. This next sheet, which is the frame extension sheet, that's featuring some drawings in the centre of the sheet made in oil pastel and graphite from natural forms, so it connects to each one of the other sheets that you've produced throughout the unit so far. Students will choose what they do on the outside of the frame depending on the media that they've liked the most. In the case of this student, who quite liked the idea of trying painting and colourful designs to clash and contrast with the middle design, they decided to use painting in one diagonal half, and then using some of the other strengths they had in decoration, used fine liner over the top in different thicknesses and different styles of patination over the top of a coloured wash background. The final sheet that this student completed was made completely in oil pastel. The idea was to mix together all of the different natural forms and elements that they had drawn from throughout the unit so far and combine them into one successful overall composition. A little bit similar to what they did with the first sheet, which was chalk, this oil pastel was to balance out the difference in medias but also show the flair in drawing. For the student's final piece, they decided that they quite liked numbers of elements of each one of the different sheets, including painting, including some of the different drawings and the different mixtures of relief and pattern work that they've been making. So they decided to make a triptych, which is 3 of something in this case, and each one of these 3 designs, which was A3 in size, showed a different type of versatility, a different element and a different media, all of which were then combined in a layered complete format. I'm hoping that when you look at this, you realise that it's not just about the quantity of sheets that you produce, it's about the quality. And besides the final piece and the 5 A2 sized coursework sheets that were created, it was the quality and it was the detail of each of those sheets that contributed towards the student's level 9 work. One of the other contributing factors to this student achieving the level 9 was down to their sketchbook, which really consolidated all of the learning, showed lots of understanding and lots of analysis, all of which you'll see in these next couple of slides has been a real contributing factor to the student getting a level 9. This first page just indicates what's in the sketchbook, just quite a general overview, but as the book then changes over, you see then that student's quality and presentation of detail starts to come out. This first sheet, which is the chalk sheet, is explained inside this little sketchbook, which is sort of an A4 squarish sort of a size. Is then just confirmed, explained, linked to the artists and made sure that anybody who's reading the book understands that they understand what they were doing when they were set the task. As it moves on to the next page, it shows that the student has practiced and just recorded experiments in media, so they're just going that little one stage beyond what the normal students would do and those students who are looking to get a lower level. To show their flair of analysis and research and understanding in written forms and contexts, this student then goes that extra stage by writing up in as much detail as possible analysis about each one of the artists that she researches. In this case, it's the futurists which she looks at, which are the main basis for her sheet that was created in chalk. As this moves on, following the chalk sheet, she then investigates and records the evidence for her circle sheet. Absolutely fantastic sheet, one of the best ones. There's just a little picture of it now going by on the screen, but an absolutely cracking sheet. On this page here, and it's one of the things that the examiners love to see that drives those marks forward, it's the understanding in the planning. If you show that you understand the different stages, you record those stages, saying who they connect to, evaluating as you go, targeting areas that you're developing, targeting strengths, that's the sort of thing that will prove to the examiner that you know what you're doing. And then recording the final piece on the right hand side here on this right page, which is annotated and explained each one of the connections. Then as the page progresses, you've got a little bit of drawing, looking at analysis for the ways that peacock feather drawings could be developed in the work, and then also some other ideas for reliefing and decorating the work. As this page goes over, it then reveals 3 of these little luggage label studies, one for Mogilevsky, Mary Kappan and Aboriginal, all of which who are analysed and really annotated in depth in this book here. So an absolutely fantastic way of presenting that's not just your straightforward format, really personal, really engaging. That's what the examiner wants to see. Moving on now, we've got Kawada and Bridget Riley research, not just again done in a really standard way. The frames are well decorated, the titles have taken time to be well executed and connect to the artist, along with that information, which isn't just fixed on the page. It's often put on in interesting little hinges or flaps, things like that, to make it more engaging and tactile for the viewer and reader to look at. This image here, it's showing how the student took the idea of Ruth Piper's work that little stage further and used a little bit of relief and textile incorporation into their work just to push the personal nature of their work that little bit further. It explains on this right hand side about the technique sheet there and what the idea was behind that, which I've sort of formally called as the box sheet in this case. This has then got a number of different medias, techniques, experimentations, but it's mainly to drive the quality of your drawing further. Each one of the drawings is connected to a bit of an artist link, whether it's the collage connected to Eric Carle, or it might be that the pointillism was then connected back to Seurat. Each one of the connections clearly listed clearly connected, very easy to see, which is one of the big contributing factors to the student getting that level 9. She then does a general sheet overview of that sheet before moving into talking about her oil pastel sheet, which became the final sheet that she did for her coursework before her final piece. She records little examples of sketches, photos that she would be drawing from, and then talks a little bit about the types of decoration that she'll be using on the sheet, including some, again, images to observe from, as well as analysis of each one of those sheets. Moving through there, she then goes to talk about a part of her final piece, in this case this origami piece, which formed the centre of a triptych that she then made. Explains each one of the artists that she's used, how she's then staged the sheet together, and what she's done to construct it. Looking into a little bit more research for the decoration, some absolutely beautiful work in Paisley done there for this research sheet, as well as the information which backs it up superbly. After that, she then moves into talking about that final piece, saying about how it will be formed from the other design, which was then featuring the origami and the hexagon design. A big one of the whole triptych can be seen right on the screen here. And then that then explains the types of shapes she's going to need, how she's then going to level each one of those different pieces, and then also the way that she'll use media. In this case of this slide here with the sunflower, it's looking at different ideas for painting, as well as colour blending, as well as ways of making sure that she develops that colour in her work. And then finally, a little bit of a plan before she then moves on. She definitely wanted to use that strong yellow and the black and white patternation together, but create a little bit of relief, like she proved successful in the previous work that she then created with Paisley. After that, a final piece out overview, next steps for what she would do to improve it that little bit further, and then just explains the function of the triptych and then the making process of her sheets. There's a little bit of overview as we approach the rest of the sketchbook. And then finally, on that last page, she just includes a few little practice sketches that she'd got and she wasn't quite sure where else to put. So an absolutely phenomenal book, absolutely brilliant unit. That definitely was well deserving of that level 9. If you have any questions, please email me at robinson-white@tahs.net. Thank you.